So this week I'm back in the garage, and what I'm trying to do is get a better angle for the steering on this rock crawler. So what had happened is I had put a steering wheel spacer on it to make it easier for Emily to steer, and by doing that it made it higher up into her face. So what I'm going to do is cut this bracket and put it at a flatter angle so that I can still drive it, but it should work better for Emily as well. So I just lowered the steering wheel, so I've got it all tacked into place. It's not fully welded yet. And what I'm doing is just test fitting these steering wheels to see if I can drive it with it lowered like this, and if it's going to work for Emily. I have a feeling it'll work just fine. It'll work a lot better for Emily, because I can already tell it's a lot lower for me. I have better visibility as well. So kind of try and get the steering wheel in the frame there. So obviously it might not have been the most ideal place for a steering wheel, but sometimes with stuff like this, I mean, I haven't built a lot of these, so sometimes you just fit them where you can. So I'll try out the one. So this steering wheel has a spacer for Emily, so her arms aren't so straight out like this. And that was a suggestion from some of you to get this steering wheel for spacer for Emily. So trying that out worked great. The only problem is when it was turned up like this, having that steering wheel extension just made it that much higher and more in her visibility. So I'm gonna try this one right here. This is just a regular steering wheel off my other car without a spacer, and that one works just fine. Like, yeah, the steering wheel is not like super close to me to begin with. Even me, you know, at 6 foot tall, the steering wheel's out there a little bit. But it's fine. It doesn't bother me driving it like that. So, yeah, I think this is going to work. I'm going to weld this up and then put this all back together. I put all these aluminum panels in here so I don't get sparks on the seat and burn holes into my seat. Just try to make it as simple as I can. I should have used a TIG welder so that I don't have all these sparks going all over the place. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but... Hims, how's that steering wheel?
Great.
Is that gonna be much better?
Yep.
We got it lowered. Look at your arms are being able to be bent.
Is this a spacer?
Yep, that's the spacer right there.
This?
Yep. That's it. So lean back all the way in the seat. Perfect, look at that. Can you see better too?
Yeah.
Where the steering wheel was right here?
Yeah, I can see a lot better.
You think you have better visibility?
Yep.
All right, well, that's good. We got one thing done. We're also putting in this window net. Look at that. Now you can't stick your hands out. Can't stick your hands out. She's never stuck her hands out, but we just want to be safe and make sure that there's no way she can stick her hands out. So for Buggy side panels, I typically use aluminum. That's what's right here. But now I'm gonna try something different here. So what we've got here, this is polycarbonate. And so the cool thing about it is you can see through it. So it offers a little bit of protection so nobody sticks their foot outside the door, or you don't get a seatbelt pulled on by a rock or something like that. But this one is a tinted color, so it's not perfectly clear. So it looks black like the rest of the Buggy. But when you go inside and look out, you can see through it. And that's got to be kind of nice. That's one of the reasons I don't like to run side panels much, is because you can't see off to the side. So I'm going to try something a little different here. and I'm going to try these polycarbonate panels. And basically to make them, I essentially did the same thing. For a 4x8 sheet up in Grand Junction, it was about $200, so a little cheaper than aluminum. And then what I did was just lay my old panels on top of it and trace it out, and I cut it out the same way. I used a circular saw, and then I used a jigsaw to round the corners, and then I just used a template I already had for my quarter turn fasteners. Now this panel is just slightly thicker than the aluminum I used to use, so I might need to adjust these fasteners just a little bit. But so far I really like the way they look, so I'm always up for trying something new. So we've got these new panels installed, and I'm really happy with how they look. Super cool being able to look through them and see stuff out the other side. I don't know how they're going to hold up. I don't know how they'll hold up over time. I have seen, I believe it was Caliph Redden had used these in the past, and I think that's where I got the idea. So yeah, I went and got a 4x8 sheet of this stuff, polycarbonate. They had all different, colors and tint that I got up in Grand Junction. So basically what I was using was these aluminum panels, and you can see they don't last very long. What happens is you get into a rock, it scratches it up, dents it all up down there, and that's going to happen. These are going to get scratched up too. We're going to put them into rocks and stuff. There's kind of no way around it. There's one of my old aluminum ones, and you can see the bottom's all scratched up. Ideally, the goal would be to keep a rough set of skins laying around for when you get into the bigger rocks, and then have a fresh set when you want things to look nice and clean. That would be the ideal situation, but it doesn't always work out that way. We'll see how long these last and how long they hold up, so keep everybody updated. So what we've got here, we get these logos made up just so we can have our brand on there. We get these logos made up from a local shop, and basically we just took them our logo and they cut them out for us. So let's put this one on there, see how it looks. So now we just put this on there. Just gonna loosely put that on there and get my tape measure. Looks pretty good. There is one more hole that I'm missing right there I need to drill out, but usually I put a little bit of weather stripping in between the panel and the metal just to help dampen any kind of vibrations, so it's not quite as noisy. It's a rock buggy, things are never perfect, but anyway, looking good. So I made a little mistake when installing this window net. I just Googled some pictures on how to install one of these because I'm not too familiar with it. So I welded a couple of the tubes that it came with down to the bottom, pretty straightforward. And then it comes with the seatbelt deal for the top. Now, one thing, I should have thought this through a little bit more. I don't like where the seatbelt tab is at because that's right in line with my head. And especially if I'm not running this thing. If I'm running it and wearing a helmet, no big deal. But if I'm not running it, well, running this window, this thing's going to be right near my head. So what I'm going to do is I welded this on there. I'm going to cut it back off and then weld a bolt to the cage so that I can make this removable. I think that would be one of the easiest things to do, just so that it can come on and off real easy. So that's what I'm going to do next. All right, so I'm just welding a bolt to the roll cage so that this window net's much more easy to remove in and out, and so I can remove this tab so that I'm not going to hit my head on that in the future. Now, this is one of the reasons that I like TIG welding so much. So I got my TIG welder here, is it's easy to get those smaller, more intricate places. The other thing is you don't have sparks flying all over the car. I still try to cover things up with kind of shielding and such, just to keep the seats from getting holes in them and hopefully preventing a spark from landing on the fuel tank. But TIG welding makes it so much easier to do small repairs and not have sparks flying all over the car. So just another one of those reasons that I like to touch things up with the TIG welder. Well, we pretty much got everything back together. I went through the car. I do my pre-trip routine pretty much stays the same for both cars. First thing I do is always grease the U-joints. I grease those before every trip, and on a multi-day trip I try to grease them somewhere in the middle just to keep these U-joints happy on these type cars. I would rather grease them too much than not enough. We got the new side panels on. They're looking really sharp. I think they look really good. As you can see there, you can see through them. You can see right out the other side. I'm excited to see if they hold up and how they work out. I've also got a window net over here for Emily. We got this window net. I ended up putting that on a bolt so I can remove it so I don't hit my head off of it. And I really am worried about her. I'm really worried if she ever sticks her hand outside and grabs a roll cage or something. I'll be honest, I'm not perfect. I've accidentally almost done that. And it's something that happens in a flash of a second. And what happens is you start tipping over, you see a rock starting to come towards your face, and your first reaction is to go, oh, I better, but I did that once. I touched a rock as it was coming towards the roll cage, and I didn't put my hand on the roll cage or anything, but I knew I shouldn't have even done that. It's just so easy to have happen. Now, I've rolled multiple times in different cars over the years, and what I typically do is keep my hands on the steering wheel and try and lean in so I don't bump my head off the top. But sometimes things happen really quick and you don't think about it, and I just want to keep her from being able to stick her hand out. So we're going to try the window net. So I've also got the steering wheel lowered, so it's lowered quite a bit more. We had her sit in it yesterday. Seems like she had good visibility, so we're trying that too. So we're continuing trying to make improvements, try and make things better, just make subtle improvements, because I still got to be able to drive it, and I'd like her to be able to drive it. So we're trying to find the balance somewhere in the middle. You know, since I've built this car, we've had it going since last fall. We've had it out quite a bit. We've had it out to Sand Hollow a couple times now. We've had it out to King of the Hammers. We've had it around Colorado, and we've gotten quite a bit of trail time with it. There's a few things that we've changed since we built it. Starting with the first thing is I added another cooler. I started with just that heat sink type cooler for the transmission, and it worked fine in colder weather. However, once it started getting warmer out, I noticed the transmission needed more cooling. So then I added the second derail style cooler. And so that seems to be working out pretty well. So there's something that I've changed since I originally built this. Another thing I've been looking at changing is the fuel cell. I haven't changed it yet, but I might change it. I'm looking at putting a smaller fuel cell in that might go right there. I ordered one, it hasn't come in yet. I was hoping it would have came in to get it installed this weekend, but that didn't happen, so I'm sticking with this one. This one has good capacity. This is a 10-gallon tank, and I've never ran out of fuel. I've always been just fine. But I was looking at maybe trying a 5-gallon tank out that would fit right back over there, and then this would open up space for a cooler or something. It's not really anything important that I need to do. It's just an idea. Something else that I've changed since building this, I've been playing around with these air shocks, trying to find a happy balance with these air shocks and figure out how much up travel I should have, all that sort of stuff. So one thing that I did recently is I let all the air out of the shocks. I let them all the way down, then lifted them up an inch. I bought extra oil and then filled them all the way up. So I just had 1 inch of shaft showing. And from what I've read, the philosophy behind that is now basically the shock oil inside acts like an internal bump stop. Rather than having it just bottom out completely on metal, at least you have that little bit of hydraulic bump stop. And it seems to be working. Since doing that, I haven't noticed, it doesn't seem like when I bought them, it's quite as harsh as it used to be. So another idea behind it is now that oil is taking up the extra space inside the shock, you don't have to run as high a shock pressure. These Fox 2.0s, you have to run, with a car, you have to run a little bit higher air pressure, and what that does is it can cause unloading. So if you're leaning over on a hard angle, that extra air pressure helps push you over even further. So running the lowest amount of pressure for your ride height seems to be like the optimal deal. So this one I've been running very little up travel, only like 3 to 3.5 inches of up travel. And I love it in the rocks, but it really isn't very fun driving out through the middle of Johnson Valley or to some of the trailheads. But I just take it slow. We just take it slow and easy and keep moving along, and it's not that bad. But it's just a small rock crawler, where this thing rides a whole lot nicer out in like Johnson Valley and to some of the trailheads. I could put nicer shocks on it, maybe Fox 2.5s or ORIs would be a better option, but I haven't done that yet. So just trying to make these things work. These things, once again, just part of the whole project, was more of a value type project. Another thing I did recently, I broke my driveline out on the last trip out. So this is a new driveline I just built the other weekend. What I do is I go to Denny's Drive Shaft, and you go online and say you want to build a 2-inch drive shaft. They tell you exactly which parts you need, which slip yoke you need, and which weldable end yoke you need. So Denny's Drive Shaft makes it so easy. They also sell the tubing there, so you can order everything at once. And I made a video in the past on how I do drive lines, but on an off-road drive line like this, I basically press it all together, set it on a surface, and check it with my dial indicator, or you can put it in there, tack a few spots, and then check it with your dial indicator and tap it straight. So anyway, I try to get them in the ballpark as close as I can, but the truth is, in no time, a rock crawling driveline is going to look like that one under there, and it's not going to stay very true for very long anyway. As long as it's not super bent, it'll be fine. I find for at least what I need to do. So those are a few things that we've changed on the car. Other than that, you know, everything's working real good. It's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun with it. Emily's having a lot of fun learning to drive, and we're just getting out and using it as much as we can. So it's been great having this car still as well. Obviously this car needs a new set of tires, so been trying to get a set of those 42-inch Nittos, so maybe one of these days we'll make it happen. And then that car, I've got an extra set of used tires in the back for that one once they completely wear out too. So I try to take these tires down as far as I can. Overall, things have been going well. We're just having fun. Getting out there, getting this thing all shined back up so we can go rough it up again.